radio station. It's a Christian radio station. I work soundboards. I control, like, when you hear, our program on the air, the sound that you hear, that's me navigating that. I also do music, and I take calls and pass them on to the pastor after he's done doing his sermon. So it's pretty hectic. My ultimate goal is to become a sports broadcaster. Growing up just watching, TV with, sports games, I just want to be at that event and, just covering that and, just being present and enjoying it.
Well, very good. Okay, well, like I said, we're glad to have you on the program. I look forward to having you on as a regular contributor. I think the one thing I know that you were very excited about when you were telling family members and friends is that this is your opportunity to shine on the air. And I guess one of the things we're going to continue to do as the relationship grows is as you write certain stories, and you'll have an opportunity to talk about them. And even though you don't write certain stories, it doesn't matter. You certainly know what you're doing anyway. So with that said, okay, let's lead off with the AL Cy Young race between Garrett Cole and Justin Verlander. You predicted Verlander would win it. Now you have a chance to put some numbers and match up what you have come up with.
Well, I look at it from this. I look at it, Verlander leads in wins and whip. And with the no-hitter that he just threw recently, that pretty much, in my eyes, means that he's worthy of that award. He's done it in the past in 2012. I don't see why not this year. But you got to give credit to Cole. He's pushed Verlander. Cole leads in strikeouts, earned runs, which is ERA. His record is 20-5 with a 2.50 ERA, 326 strikeouts, and a whip of 0.895. You'd give the win column to Verlander with one win, or one more win than what Cole has. But from where I look at it, if I was to go with Cole besides Verlander, I'd say I'd give it to Cole because, if he got less run support than Verlander did, that's a pretty tough thing to deal with, especially for pitching. So, whoever wins this, they're well deserving.
Well, I mean, I'll tell you, the Houston Astros have had some incredible success. So how do you think they're going to fare in the postseason while the postseason gets started?
I think they're going to fare really, really well. They got two dominant aces going up against AL Central, or not AL Central, excuse me, AL teams.
Right.
They're heavy in hitting. And, you got the Yankees, you got, trying to think of the other teams,
well, you got the, you had the Yankees, who are always a threat. The Oakland A's and the Tampa Bay Rays are certainly teams that'll be interesting. In fact, they're playing tomorrow night. I'll be curious to see what happens there.
Yes. And not to mention, you got Blake Snell, who was a former Cy Young winner who won it last year for the Rays. So,
right.
There's plenty of talent all across the board, when you're comparing pitching. But that is the Astros, one of their strengths besides pitching is hitting. You got Brantley, you got the likes of Altuve, you got Correa. I can go on and on and on. These guys are loaded up and down. They're my favorite in the AL to win the World Series this year.
Are they? Okay, well, that's interesting.
Yes.
That's really interesting. You really think that they're going to be able to, you really think that the Astros have the ability to go all the way?
Yes, I 100% agree. I set on that happening.
Well, that's something. Well, I guess you pretty much have gone out on a limb, in terms of, and that's good. I like when somebody goes out on a limb and isn't afraid to go out there and put it out there.
Yeah.
But your playoff teams in the American League, you have the A's and the Astros, as we've talked about, and the Minnesota Twins. No, they're the other team. How do you think the Minnesota Twins, obviously people saw them in Detroit, will fare during the postseason?
I think they're going to fare very well. Like you just said, being part of the AL Central. We're home. I'm from Detroit, Michigan, so I've seen them play the Tigers many, many times in the playoffs as well. And they're a pretty dominant team. I've never seen them not dominant. They've probably had some down years here and there, but it's been pretty consistent. They got great hitting. They got Nelson Cruz. They got Miguel Sano. Kyle Gibson. If I think I'm pronouncing his name right, Kyle Gibson is one of their pitchers. He's pretty good.
Right.
They got some talent, and that team's hungry. I think they'll fare very well.
Well, we'll go on to the California Bill in a moment. I just want to get this last thought in before we graduate to that. I think the New York Yankees and the Minnesota Twins series is going to be one entertaining series against two teams that have a history in the postseason. Much of it, the Yankees have won over the Twins, but I think that if the Yankees pitching can do what it needs to do in the postseason, I see no reason why they won't win, but let's not count the Twins out. They had a fine season for sure under first-year manager Rocco Baldelli. With that said, okay, we talked about the California Bill, the Fair to Pay Play Act that will be enacted in 2023. Ohio State University Athletic Director Gene Smith says he won't play California schools, and Florida is now following suit with a bill that they're hoping to get started in July of 2020. So, with that said, Damon, okay, you there?
Yeah.
What's that?
I can hear you now. Yep.
Okay, that's fine. Let me go over it again. Okay, we talked about the California Pass Bill 2023. Yep. I think we got to that point. Ohio State University Athletic Director Gene Smith says he won't play California schools, and now Florida's now talking about following suit in 2020. Give me your interpretations of what you think that these bills will bring to the table, let alone that there'll probably be other ones that go ahead with it.
I think the bill is a great idea. I really, really think that kids are deserving to get paid and being able to, profit off their name. You know what I mean? These kids are suffering in college debt. They're not allowed to have jobs. They're in a scenario where it's constantly getting harder on them and their families. We don't think about the family part of it. We think about the athlete, what he's doing for the school rather than a human being that's working behind the scenes, to get where he wants to go in his dreams. I was watching some media clips. Draymond Green, thinks that the NCAA is a dictatorship, and he was saying that once they find out that kids are trying to get paid for the school that they're at, they kick them out, and they don't let them profit off their name or anything like that. They profit off of them, which it's backwards. It really is. That's his words, and I agree with that. LeBron, he said if my name was on the back of those 23 Irish jerseys, they would have sold out the stadium. They would have sold out the arena. And him and his mom had nothing. He constantly moved around from city to city. Just grew up poor, and, but that's what built the character. But I think it's right to pay these kids.
Well, you said it, and I'm going to go ahead and continue with that, okay? And that's this. These kids have student loans, okay, and they're piling up. And unless they're able to go ahead and at least be able to pay some of them off or save their money, that's one thing. But with all these stupid rules violations where these kids, not all of them come from wealthy families, can't even buy a bag of groceries, and the NCAA has all these stupid minor infractions. That's a bunch of baloney. It really is. And I think a lot of... What's that?
Yeah. It really is. It is.
Yeah.
This is a billion-dollar corporation, and are you telling me that you can't give up some money for these kids to support themselves? It's ludicrous. It really is.
Right. I mean, think about it. The NCAA is scrambling now because I think they're going to lose their monopoly on the money, and I think they've lost control of this business, and they've been stealing for so long. And And I think the states have said they're not going to put up with this anymore. So I believe that this bill is definitely long overdue. I really do. And, like anything else, I mentioned it before. For them to be able to supplement their money, they only have a 1 to 4 year window, and the student loans, being able to buy groceries. And when you think about it, I think the pay is for each student will depend on each sport, because obviously you're not going to give a lower revenue sports as much money, I don't think, as a lot of the bigger ones. Although you never know, swimming could probably surprise you a little bit. But I think overall, this is something. I mean, I worked my way through college, so therefore I didn't have to avoid the student loans. But when you look at working your way through college, and other students are able to supplement their income, I think everybody should be treated on an even playing field, and I think that's where the NCAA has gone wrong for so long.
Yes, and it'll encourage kids to stay in school too.
Right.
A lot of these athletes, they go to the NFL. They're very talented, or the NBA, or NHL, or whatever, or what have you. They go to the pro level, and some of them it doesn't quite work out, and then they're trying to find something to fall back on, whether it's coaching or whether it's their degree that they got from their college, and it just gives them more options for the future. That's all you can ask for any human being on earth, is to have a future, to have the possibility to accomplish their dreams. So I'm all for the betterment of people, and student athletes especially, and just an average Joe. So.
That's a good point. Okay, lots of guys are leaving after their first and second year because many years ago, Damon, they call it the hardship when they were able to leave earlier. Then leagues became more and more lax with it. But think about those guys that are declaring for their drafts a little bit earlier before they're ready. I think, in an indirect sense, this benefits the universities overall, largely because of the fact that they won't be thinking about jumping ship early, in that sense. So yeah, they could keep these players better and longer. And when you think about the other alternatives out there, the NBA in a couple of years, the one and done rule is going to be out of there. But what about these guys that are not ready to play professionally yet? Where do they go?
They leave, like you just said, a one and done year, and then they leave and they go to the pros. It doesn't work out, and they're looking for something to do with their life. And it's very sad. You look at Greg Oden. He had those leg problems, but he wasn't ready to come out into the pros. They just left. They're lost. They're having what they love taken away from them in a way. So it's very sad.
Well, it is, and not only that. When you look at this issue and break it down in its entirety, okay. Again, let's talk about basketball for a moment. You have the G League, okay, or Gatorade League, whatever it's called, the NBA Development League. They change it all the time. The NBA's made some good steps to at least have that developmental league, and if that isn't good enough, Australia is offering some of these guys money to play down there. So they've got another place to go. And of course, you have these guys are playing in Europe. So, the NBA's done a good job coming up with a feeder system so that these guys have a place to go. But only the fortunate and the talented are able to go. That's number one.
Yeah.
Now you're finding in football, you've got, too bad the Alliance of American Football League failed, but now you have the XFL starting up in the spring of 2020. But again, that's only so limited as well.
Yeah. You also think about the big three, IQ creating that league for, retired and non-retired players,
right.
Players that want retirement, the signing of Joe Johnson, to the Pistons. So he really showed that he still has the sharp shooting skills that he had when he was young. It's just a way for players to keep their hopes and dreams alive. You think about Jimmer Fredette.